As we move on in our AWS services, it's time to talk about the little guys, meaning there's three little services, all starting with the letter S. Actually, they start with the word simple, that will just make your life of integration with AWS that much easier. They are the simple email service, simple notification service, and the simple queuing service. Let's start off with the simple email service. What this service does is allow you to send email from hosted applications. Now, these are applications that you have running on EC2 servers in the cloud. Now, first off, before I even go through the rest of this, can I give you a really big picture view of this? Because I know immediately when some of you see that, you go, well, I don't need that because I already can send email from my applications. I've got maybe a Linux instance, maybe a Windows instance, and I'm running my own email server. So why would I even, fast forward, Jeremy, I don't need to hear about this. Well, can I just mention that these services, matter of fact, all three of them, matter of fact, just about every service that Amazon offers is something that you could do yourself. I mean, we could go from the basics of sending email, and you could say, well, I can do that myself, to running a database. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about that in the next nugget. You can say, well, I could run my own database. Get to running your own server, getting your own data center. It's kind of like your own. The more stuff that you say, okay, I'm going to run my own blah, fill in the blank. And you've now opened yourself up to more work, to more maintenance. Let me dive a little bit into simple email service and talk about, because I've done this a lot on my own, and it is a pain to run your own email server. Why? Well, it's not a pain to set it up. Setting up an email server is really easy. Whether you're using, for example, Microsoft Exchange, okay, that one's not very easy, but I guess just to get it to the point of sending emails, it is. Or using something on Linux to send email. I mean, there's a lot of different options out there to do it. But when you get out to the big wide world of email, here we are on the internet, the first few messages that you send, when I say few, I mean hundreds of emails that you send if you bring up a new email server, are immediately rejected by the rest of the world. Why? Well, because they don't know who you are, as in the IP address that you're coming from on your email server. It's not known to the world. The world figures you might just be some guy sitting in his house who got infected with malware, and somebody has now compromised your machine to the point where it's now sending a bunch of spam emails out to the world. You know it's illegal to send spam, at least in the United States. And if you get caught doing it, then you can actually go to jail. I don't know if you knew that. So people, instead of sending it spam themselves, they infect other people's computers to send spam, so they get prosecuted. Obviously, the authorities know that kind of thing. But all of this being said, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of computers out there infected with these spam sending bots, so the world is prepared against this. So all of the email servers of the world will typically use spam filtering that will say, okay, you are an untrusted IP address. I'm not going to accept anything from you. So you have to build a reputation, just by sending a lot of email, and eventually people are like, okay, I guess you're real. You're sending valid looking emails. Let's add you to a safe list. You have to be a member of forums, and then if your email server ever gets compromised, or you ever decide to send something that might be perceived as spam, and I will tell you, Google is vicious about their Gmail accounts, things like that. If they have anything coming from your IP address that even barely looks like spam, they're going to be like, block, deny, we're filtering. You've sent 40 messages in the last hour. Sorry, you're blocked. I mean, it is brutal. So to keep and maintain your own email server, it really is a pain, and what Amazon is saying is let us do the work for you. This is designed, the simple email service is designed for bulk service, and it leverages all of the reputation that AWS has built with the volume of email that they send. I mean, I get Amazon emails all the time. So they've built a reputation of sending millions of emails to subscribers around the world, and you get to leverage that same email reputation. Now, they are there to protect themselves as well. So, for instance, if you are thinking of like, oh, maybe I can get an AWS EC2 server, sign up for this, and start sending spam to the world, no, it won't happen. Amazon does their own filtering. So if you're, and I love the way Amazon words it in their documentation. They say, well, if your email looks like something that might be rejected by other email servers of the world, we'll go ahead and stop that for you, so that you don't get rejected. I mean, they put it so well where somebody's like, "Oh wow, thank you, Amazon." And what they're really saying behind the scenes is, "We don't want you to hose our reputation by sending all kinds of spam out. So we're going to make sure that you're sending good stuff, and we're going to scan everything." So if you do have, a service that would be interpreted as spam, you might want to use one of the other. There are bulk email services like ConstantContact.com and things like that are designed to send bulk email that normally people would say, "Oh, that's kind of So anyway, right. So uses the AWS closed loop system. Yet another thing you learn as you start running your own email server is that, and I had to learn this the hard way. I actually run a email server currently for thousands of people. Anyway, not to get into that. So I've got a lot of experience with this, and one of the things that you sign up for is feedback loops. So so here's your email server, right? If your email server sends something that looks like spam, there are people around the world that's their whole job. Most of them are volunteer, but they go and they say, "Hey, that is spam." They go mark as spam, and so that goes back to their service provider. And the service provider, let's say, one of the service providers in here in Arizona is CenturyLink, right? And CenturyLink, who's the service provider of this person in their house that marked it as spam, says, "Oh, we have a report of this being spam," and they will actually go out and try and lower your reputation as an email server. Well, a feedback loop or a closed loop system allows them, you actually sign up with every major vendor, allows them to report directly back to you so it doesn't damage your reputation. Does that make sense? So there's all these agencies around the world. What I'm thinking, MX Toolbox, it would be a great site if you're really interested in this. That there's all these agencies, we'll call them the watchers. Their eyes, and what they are is a lot of spam filtering. I know I'm going way deeper than you need to know about email, I think, but I think it's so good for you to know this so that you can really start to value what Amazon's doing. Let's say Barracuda and McAfee, two big vendors of spam filtering equipment. They actually subscribe to these services. They pay these watchers, let's call them the W's, the watchers out there, to get a rating back. So if you don't sign up for a closed loop system, every single time somebody reports you as spam, this will actually go to the watchers. And the watchers will report to all the spam filtering systems of the world, be like, "Whoa, you don't want to trust that guy. His reputation just went down." And so you can have some major impact just because Bob, sitting in his living room, said, "I don't think that's good email." And who knows if Bob is reputable or not? But CenturyLink, who Bob signed up for their program, will do that. So anyway, what this does is instead of sending it to the watchers, they'll send it directly back to you, so that you can look at it and determine, is that really spam, and do I need to do something about it? Do I need to contact that subscriber and do something? So all my scribbles, let me wipe them. So AWS uses a closed loop system, allowing them to receive the feedback. And if you are sending a bunch of stuff that's being marked by people as spam, you're likely going to get contacted by AWS saying, "Hey, what you doing? What kind of stuff you sending? We want to make sure that it's all legitimate," and so on. Okay. So to protect themselves, Amazon limits new subscribers to 10,000 emails a day. Now that's a lot. I can't type that fast. I can't send that many emails. But as your time goes on, so this is all probably application based that you're going to be doing here. As your time goes on and you begin to prove yourself more and more, they will automatically increase that limit. Meaning, you can then send 20,000, then 30,000. So it's almost like you build your own reputation with Amazon as you're with them longer, so that they can trust the email that you're sending, and you're not going to violate their outbound scanning and all that. So lastly, charges is based on the quantity of email sent, as with everything AWS. Next up is the simple notification service. All right, anyone have a guess as to what this one does? Yes, you, sir. No, sorry, you. Yes, you over there. Does that send notifications? Yes, sir, it does. It sends notifications. And it's message transmission for humans and services. I love saying humans in bullet points. It makes me feel so cyborgish or Matrix-like. I don't know. But again, this is in the spirit of simple email service. It's just one less thing for you to manage. Same thing here. One less thing for you to design into your applications is a way to notify people when an event occurs. So let me give you some examples. It's probably easier with a human notification first, because that's what you and I are used to. So email. Email is something. Was I about to go into what email is? No. So we can notify somebody via email when an event occurs. This is so basic. It's difficult. It's better if I show it to you. Okay, how about that? I'm going to bring over the Amazon Web Services console. Let me just get that to the right size. Oh. There we go. And over on the right-hand side of that menu, you can see all the services that we're talking about. Simple email service, simple notification service, and the simple queuing services. So I'm going to click on, let me give you an example of this. Let's say my simple notification service. This is exactly how you configure it. So right now, I've got nothing. Now notice I'm in the Oregon region. You want to make note of that because it has to be within the region. So EC2 servers and things like that can reach it. So we'll create a new topic. That's what it's called. And we'll say this topic is, let's say, notify tech team. Says if you want SMS subscriptions, you need a display name, and that kind of comes through when the SMS message comes across. I'm going to throw one in there. Let's just ASDF it and create the topic. I created a new action, ASDF it. So notify the tech team. Now I've got my tech team. I can create a subscription to that topic. I'm going to say I've got email. Now notice this is the list here. We've got email, JSON. JSON is kind of think of it like a scripting programming language. So you could, for instance, email an application that then parses that, or maybe email to somebody that you can copy and paste it into something else if humans are involved. Now notice SMS isn't in this list. That is because right now SMS is limited, I believe it's to the Virginia region only. So SMS, texting cell phones is what that is. I think Virginia is the only one that offers that service, but again, it's spreading quickly. So by the time you hear this, it may be in your region, but you'll see SMS in the list. So I can choose email, and I'll say, bob@bob.com, subscribe. And what it's done is it's now going to send a confirmation email to bob@bob.com, just like every confirmation you've seen where he clicks it and says, yes, I accept to be part of that notification. Okay, so obviously bob@bob.com doesn't exist. We'll never get that. But if it did, it would say he's now confirmed. And then you can go to any Amazon service that you want. Let's, as a matter of fact, we just, a couple nuggets ago, I think, talked about Glacier. So Glacier, we created our CBT Vault system, and we've got notifications, and many of the AWS services will have this. And I'll say, okay, well, the notifications are enabled. I need the ARN, so let me jump back here to SNS, and I got to click on Notify Tech Team. There's my ARN, shoop, right there. And what I would do is copy that to my clipboard, shoot back over here to Glacier, hit your Vault, and hit the notifications, enable it, and I would say I'm going to that ARN, I'm going to that, or you can even create a new one from right here. And what it says, what do you want to notify? And I'll say, well, let me know when the inventory retrieval jobs are complete, or let me know when, the archive retrieval jobs are complete. So I can save that, and now, whoa, goodness gracious, what just happened? I don't know if that recorded, but that was intense. So I got a new mouse, and it's got this function, and I don't even know what causes it. It's a mouse without, anyway. That was amazing. So I'm going to click on save. So I'm saving that to where now this service, Glacier in this case, when these events happen, will email bob@bob.com or message somebody, or and this list goes on and on and on and on, to where you can have SNS. And now, okay, let me now spin back to our services. So I talked about human interaction. Services, you can use email for services, but more likely it's going to be HTTP, HTTPS, where you can notify maybe another server. So I'm trying to think. Maybe you've got a video website where you have people that can store their videos and publish them to the web. It's kind of like a YouTube sort of service, if you will. And for each video that they put up there, for 30 minutes of video to be live, it costs them $1 a month, right? Or let's just say that's their thing. So what you could do is you could say, but we can actually have archive videos. Maybe this is. See, I create these scenarios as I go. This is a education website where they have seminars from decades of instructors that have been taped or audio, recorded in there. And you can say, well, you can store your information for $1 a month for each video, or you can put it in archive. Where if you want to retrieve these videos, you can, but there's going to be a 3-4 hour wait time to get it. You see where I'm going with this, right? So these are all stored in Glacier. People can see thumbnail images of them, but when they go to retrieve them, they have to wait some time. But the trade-off is you give them those stored for 5 cents a month for unlimited length or something like that, because Glacier storage is so cheap. So there's my little storage. So what you could set up then with SNS is when somebody clicks this link and says, I want to restore this, then Glacier notifies an SNS topic, simple notification service topic, that then triggers one of your web servers to then contact Glacier and pull that individual file out of Glacier and put it in S3, which is where these are being stored and accessed. You see what I mean? So these topics, these notifications work between, of course, humans and AWS, but also can work between the services, and you can even create your own little system down here to where you can, think of an application, right? Whatever application you have created and are hosting in AWS Cloud Services, when that application goes to notify maybe some other AWS service that comes in, then it can use the AWS integrated. That's where the API comes in. Matter of fact, I'm going to talk about APIs in the next nugget. So I'll leave a lot of that discussion there. But you can take your own application. Let's just say, Treasure is the name of your application, and it does something. It finds treasure, and you can have that application notify and trigger other AWS services to go into action based on what users are doing inside of your application. So your application can integrate with SNS. Now, the only thing that I have not talked about in this list, one of the protocols. Hang on, before I show, I just want to prove it to you, because I know some people just like to see it. I thought, hey, I haven't told you about the SNS or SMS description. So in Virginia, if I create a new topic, there's my ASDF in it. It just doesn't sound good. I got to stop using that. It sounds like I'm swearing. I'm not. So when you create a subscription here, notice in Virginia you have the ability to SMS. So those are. That's how you can do that. So the only thing I didn't talk about on there was you can actually send an SNS message to SQS, which is our final S service. So SQS stands for the Simple Queue System. It is a message queuing system, and I'll describe what that is in just a second. But this, looking at the slide, I thought this is the first place I was going to introduce when I created the slides. I thought that's where I'll introduce, the concept of why would you use these services instead of doing it yourself. But I actually did that when I introduced the Simple Email service. But I do want to introduce this phrase, because you're going to hear it a lot in the Amazon world: loose coupling. When I first heard it, I thought of a loose cannon, like a crazy maniac. But in this case, loose coupling refers to a design of application. As a matter of fact, I can still remember, I don't even remember where I heard it, but it's stuck in my head, and I think Amazon came up with it. They said, loose coupling will set you free. And that has just stuck in my head eternally, so now I'm sticking it in your head. Loose coupling will set you free. What this concept is a way of designing your applications to be so redundant and so diversified, if I can say that. So previously, in the previous life of IT, you would design a server, right? It would be a web server, which also had on it a database for those web services, and it would also store a lot of the files that the users would access and all of the services, email services and things like that. Like, you would have these monster servers that you would build, and that you would have to build them bigger and bigger and bigger to handle that kind of load. Amazon's way is loose coupling, meaning there's essentially any piece is kind of interchangeable, decoupled from each other. The web services, that'll be handled by its own little group of servers, since it's so easy to spin up instances and you can build templates that are phenomenal for your World Wide Web services coming from Apache or IIS or whatever you're using there. And then you've got your simple email service that handles all the email for that. And then you've got your simple notification service that handles all of the notification systems. So that's the concept of loose coupling, is taking your services to where you really have services that are focused on what they do best. And that's the whole power behind Amazon Web Services, is they've put the time and effort to build these services to be redundant, to be scalable, to do all this kind of stuff. That's the concept of loose coupling. Okay, so now what is a message queuing system? A message queuing system is when you're an application developer and your application grows to a certain size, eventually you reach a point where that application has to communicate with other applications. And then you have to start thinking about, okay, if I've got my server running application A and it needs to communicate to another server that's running application B, but application B, this server isn't quite ready to handle it. Maybe its processor is bogged down and so on. Application A, maybe it's sending a lot of messages, maybe 50 messages. We'll just say messages per second. And that's not miles per second, messages per second that are going over there. But this guy's really bogged down, so he can't keep up. Well, so now as a developer, you have to start saying, okay, what's my application do if the other guy isn't ready? Okay, now I've got to design a queuing system in my application that says, okay, well, here's how you handle those 50 messages. Put them in memory and only go to this amount because we don't want to fill up the memory and crash the server. And you get what I'm saying. So Amazon's like, you know what? Why do you want to deal with that? Why not just allow us, here's your server with app A running, why not just dump that into SQS, which is a queuing system of unlimited size, unlimited messages, unlimited queue size, and you can have your servers that are all reporting to there. So here's application server B, right? So application A is dumping them in there at 50 messages per second. Application server B, then when it's able to, maybe it's loaded down, who knows, along with application C and D, everybody else can point to that queue and get the messages. You can configure your applications to pull the messages out of the simple queuing services as time is needed. Now, so going back to the simple notification service, one of the things that you can do is send your simple notifications into a queuing system where servers come and pick up their messages as, maybe it's on a regular interval once every 10 seconds. Maybe it's, they're always checking that queue and seeing what messages they have in there. It's like a mailbox. So the applications can grab whatever they want from there as needed. So now keep in mind, this is not the simple file sharing services. So you can see the message payload is up to 256 kilobyte in size, but really billing works on the messages being 64 kilobytes in size. So this is for small, quick ninja sending little messages back and forth between applications. It's not for saying, hey, let me dump 50 files into a bucket that you can then suck out. That would be what S3 is used for. So this is just a notification, and so you can see the billing here. 50 cents for 1 million. Come on, you got to do Dr. Evil. 1 million SQS requests. That was my pathetic impression of Dr. Evil. That can come in there. But you can see, so for instance, if you sent a 256 kilobyte message, then that's going to be 4 requests that it's counted as going into the queue. So it's designed for high traffic, high communication. It scales quickly and unlimitedly, and just erases one big concern that you may have to program around if you're developing all this yourself. Isn't that fun? I mean, not just the little services that are there, but seeing where these services fit. I mean, I know a lot of you coming through might be like, okay, well, I probably won't use simple queue services, or maybe I won't use SNS, or maybe you will. But it's good to know that it's there, because as your organization grows, it's just one less thing you have to care about. I mean, when you get to a point, you're like, okay, we got to send mass emails to our customers. I mean, that's a huge implementation of an email server or signing up with another company somewhere that's going to do that all for you. But instead, Amazon's like, hey, pay us $1 for 1 million messages, or I don't know what the price is, whatever the price is, and we don't even have to worry about it. And the price that it costs is way less than I would ever pay if I had to figure this out and do it all myself. So anyway, I think it's exciting. So we've seen contain simple email services, simple notification services, and simple queuing services. 3 more additions to your portfolio of services Amazon supports that can make your life easier. Well, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.